Senator John Kennedy was on with Tucker Carlson.
Occasionally we head over to CNN's website. CNN, despite the fact it's become completely ideological and dishonest, is still regarded by many, public schools for example, as a trusted news source.
Someone on Fox News accusing another outlet of being completely ideological and dishonest. It's astounding. It's astounding. They just like the projection at its finest.
It's become completely ideological.
In public schools,
they regarded by many.
They play CNN in public schools. They're playing fucking CNN in public schools. What is he talking about?
Public schools, for example, as a trusted news source, so people read CNN's website. We want to see what they're publishing.
Yes, people read CNN's website.
This piece. This is from one of its breaking news and politics reporters called Devin Cole. Cole was writing about South Dakota's legislation on transgender athletes. Cole wrote this line, and amazingly, CNN published it. We're quoting this directly from the CNN website. Here it is. It's not
Can somebody in the chat look that up? Like, what was it, an opinion piece? It was an opinion article, wasn't it? Just like Tucker is giving his opinion on Fox News right now. It wasn't a CNN report. I almost guarantee you it was an opinion piece.
Possible to know a person's gender identity at birth, and there is no consensus criteria for assigning sex at birth.
Correct.
Meaning that for literally hundreds of thousands of years, human beings have been reproducing in caves, huts, hospitals. This little squealing human comes out butt naked, and no one has been able to determine whether this kid was a boy or a girl. No one has known, because there's just no way to know, because biology is not real. Totally fake.
I'm going to explain this here in just a second.
If you were to have a baby, if you were to take time from your vacationing and your internet use and your weed smoke, if you actually decided to perpetuate the species and you had a child, how would you know if that child was a boy or a girl? Well, obviously we don't know. Only had 4 of them. But we thought that possibly
those poor kids too. They look like fucking Tucker's kids look like children of the corn. This is in the politics. I mean, this is all opinion, right? Well, it says this story has been updated to provide additional explanation as to the distinctions between gender and sex. It also isn't really labeled as news. South Dakota's Republican Governor Kristi Noem here. This is the article in question. Banned transgender girls and women from competing on women's sports teams.
The surest sign spring is...
Jesus Christ. The move came after Noem angered conservatives by killing a bill that would have created a similar prohibition in a news release explaining her veto at the time. So it's not possible to know a person's gender identity at birth. And for some, now he's talking about gender identity. So you don't know how someone is going to want to express themselves. That's what he's talking about. And for some people, the sex listed on their original birth certificate is a misleading way of describing the body they have. That is correct. That Tucker only took half of that sentence right there. No, it's that sentence right there. There's an and, there's a conjunction to it. While sex is a category that refers broadly to physiology, a person's gender is an innate sense of identity. The factors that go into determining the sex listed on a person's birth certificate, this is all fucking straight up. So, sorry, Tucker.
Erudite men in the U.S. Senate might have some sense of...
And like, the outrage by the snowflake at that statement. I imagine he wants to censor that. So remember, cancel culture. I'm sure Tucker wants to censor the CNN article so that they don't say that stuff. Because men are men and boys are boys, girls are girls. And Tucker had dinner with Matt Gaetz' little girlfriend. Exactly. Like the sentence makes perfect sense. Tucker left that off.
Of how to designate biological sex at birth. Senator, I appreciate your coming on for this departure from your normal political agenda to give us a biology lesson. How do you know if it's a boy or a girl?
Also, tell me, like, how do you know if that is an old lady or a man? That looks like my grandmother. He looks exactly like my grandmama that made me biscuits and gravy. He's wearing makeup.
I can't believe we're discussing this, Tucker.
I can't either.
The person who wrote that is entitled to his opinion, but in my opinion, I think he's been in lockdown too long.
That's not an opinion.
Look, sex is the language we use to describe reproduction. In humans, there are only two sexes, male and female. Males have the potential to produce sperm. Females have the potential to produce ova. These are observable physical.
I think the problem with America is that the only people that have been allowed to talk about this shit have been crusty old white men like that. Like fucking everybody's sex ed teacher looked like, man or woman, looked like fucking John Kennedy back in their grade school. If you're even lucky enough to have some sort of sex ed
is not
class.
a spectrum. It's binary.
No, it's not. It is a spectrum. Listen to me, John Kennedy. I was going to save it till the end of the video, but I got to break it down. Here's the thing. Yes, the vast majority of people are born with a penis or a vagina. But there is a small percentage of people that are born outside of those two modes. I don't think you did pull up my IP. The vast majority of people are born with a penis or a vagina. A small sliver, which, by the way, proves that it's natural because it fits across a normal curve of distribution. Do you, as many death threats as you get, does anybody in my chat believe that I'm not protected from people seeing my IP? The vast majority of people are born with a penis or vagina. A small section of the population are born intersex. They could have no sex organ, both sex organs. There are some people that have clits so big that doctors think they're penises, and they can have penises so small that doctors think that those are little clits. Proving gender is a spectrum because it is distributed across a normal curve. Okay, so you break it down to your mean. You get your one standard deviation to each side. That's your people with your normal size penises, your normal size vaginas. Imagine not having a VPN. As little. But it proves that it's a spectrum. And then you have people with gender dysphoria. You have people with chromosomal disorders in the X and Y chromosomes. You have a whole host of things other than being straight up male or female. What has happened is the male and female labels are just something that humans invented to put a label on nature, and nature is a little more messy than the labels that we created for it. And these two fucking snowflakes are offended by that. And their dumbass little brains can't even comprehend something out of their little black and white world.
You're either male or female. Now, I do believe that gender dysphoria exists. It's rare, maybe 1 in 30,000 males, 1 in 100,000 females.
Wait, they got the wrong gender on your ID? And they want you to pay to correct it? What? That's awesome. Fuck me in my clit, daddy. Anybody who says that sentence doesn't know how sex works. We've got a child in the chat. This is not a child's chat, sir. This is for real men. Only real patriots come here to the Patriot Patrol, sir. With the hardest right man in news. Breaking it down for you and letting you know how it really is. Because those socialist Democrats, they'll lie to you. They're trying to get the communism here in America, and we don't go for that. We only like real men like Tucker Carlson and Mamaw Kennedy.
Dysphoria is not an observable physical characteristic. It's an internal feeling. It's an internal feeling that a person of one sex has when he internally identifies with another sex.
When you want to have sex with somebody, you have this internal feeling that you want to have sex with them, and it makes your dick hard. That's why they call me the hardest man, the hardest right man. Fuck, the hardest right man in news.
I think most Americans believe it's wrong to discriminate against someone because
Troll Patrol. What's a Troll Patrol?
Like sex or race, but that's not what the Equality Act is about. The Equality Act is about power and government. It's about to what extent are the American people willing to give government, the bureaucracy, the managerial elite,
liberal lunacy,
the authority to regulate every aspect of our lives, education, religion, public accommodation, speech, in order to elevate the status of those.
Isn't he the one that's wanting to regulate every part of it? Like, he's saying you can't call yourself a trans person. That doesn't exist. I don't understand it.
Those who either have or claim to have gender dysphoria. For example, to what extent are Americans willing to give government the authority to require schools to make teenage girls in a junior high locker room
Bug him indeed.
Shower and change clothes with a biological boy who either...
Can somebody like that has been closer to school tell me, like, I've been out for years, did they make people shower? I never once in my entire time in school did I see another student naked. That wasn't a thing that happened. And I was in locker rooms. We did PE. What the fuck what is he talking about? Showers. What? Never once took a shower at school. What the fuck is he talking about? There's some weird fantasies going on in their heads. Now, I will say, like, at my grade school, they had showers and shit in the locker. Like, was that a thing in, like, the 60s and 70s? Kids took showers together or some shit? Because it was like one big open community shower, like, ooh. But it was like, there was no water. Like, the pipes didn't even work down there anymore. They used it as storage. Yeah, but they weren't used. Exactly. That was my experience. Like, who's making kids shower together? What the fuck? That's fucked up to begin with. No kids are shower. Where were these shower orgies at when I was in school? But then again, I wasn't the freak daddy back then. I wouldn't have been comfortable at all. At all.
Has or claims to have gender dysphoria. To what extent are Americans willing to give government the authority to require all women...
If it comes out that this is a woman posing as a man this entire time, That, like, come on, like, knowing Republicans and seeing how passionate he is about this issue. This is a woman, right? This is a repressed trans woman who's been living her life as a man.
To make women compete with much stronger biological males who identify or claim to identify with females. And that's what this debate is about. But
that doesn't happen.
Are there more than two sexes? I think that's pretty clearly settled.
Mm-hmm.
That is the calmest and clearest explanation, and I would say also
that's how I see it. They're the ones trying to regulate things.
Reality I've heard in a while. Very quickly, Senator, they're trying to make us lie about observable reality, about science. How should individual Americans who have no power respond when told they must lie?
I think they should say no. I think they ought to.
Well, they should say no.
I think they ought to ask their elected representatives when they talk this nonsense how they made it through the birth canal.
Hey, sir, you're in a party where a man has been accused of trafficking children. If you are concerned about the safety of children, why don't you expel Matt Gaetz from your party? He was on with Tucker Carlson last. Tucker Carlson had dinner. Tucker Carlson had dinner with Matt Gaetz and possibly one of his underage girls. You're on a show. You don't care about children.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very easy to.
Okay, but I really am Southern, so I can't do the Southern accent, right? So, like, I'm literally sitting in Alabama right now. So I can do my Southern accent, because I do kind of have a Southern accent, and I can do the Patriot Patrol here with the hardest right man in news, Justin Freakin. I tell you what doesn't make me hard, though, that's John Kennedy.
To tell a boy from a girl. A boy has a penis, a girl has a vagina. Those are physical characteristics. And it's all about reproduction.
Yep. Sex can be identified at the DNA
I'm sure
level.
I'm sure that's something you didn't know, Tucker, but
I had to confront it several times in the delivery room. I learned it, but it's nice to hear it confirmed. Senator, thank you so much for
thinking
coming
about Tucker having sex just gives me the willies.
Thank you.
Well, no, even with
you seriously, you can't convince me that John Kennedy is not an old lady.